concerned as I have been over the past few weeks about the women's marches. And it looked as if we would not have one here at all. But on January 18th, there's an event called by young people. I believe they're called Hamilton County Young Democrats. But if you looked online for Women's March in Cincinnati, they would turn up, I think. And they're trying to arrange for a march on January the 19th. Of an abbreviated kind of march, I believe, mainly in Clifton. But I hope we do that because I was very upset that the New York Times attacked the National Women's March Committee for no good reason, in my opinion, claiming anti-Semitism. And if you get online, you can also read interviews with the National, Linda Sarsour, particularly probably the major leader of the National Committee. She answers very clearly that this was never an issue within the committee. And New York Times, how they got up this, they had all kind of inaccuracies in their report on it. And so anyway, I hope that women still get together, all women, we still need to keep doing this.
Martha, you mean the event's off at the Music Hall? The park across the Music Hall? It's off?
Across from Music Hall.
Yeah, it's off, the thing we usually have there every year?
No,
Oh, okay, you're talking about the building.
I'm talking about the Women's March.
That's what that is.
Well, no, that's not in the,
The one that was held and they've been criticized.
yes, the Women's March as it was being led 3 or 4 weeks ago is not on. My last understanding is it's not on. There's another march by younger people that you can catch up with online if you want to.
And there's a planning meeting for that march to plan on the 18th. I believe that's now the meeting that I have on the 18th that I didn't realize. I didn't know what my meeting was.
That's it.
So if anybody is interested in being part of the planning for that. Because I know there was a lot of criticism last year because of their Black Lives Matter exclusion. So there were all kinds of issues with last year's march. Plus, many friends and I were standing there for over an hour and a half listening to people speak. And when it came time for a march, so many people left the march because they were so frustrated with not being able to feel engaged. So we got one more here. Yes? It will still be the 19th. The 19th. All right. Several weeks before. Okay, one more over here. Lori?
Hello there. This isn't really an announcement. It's just sort of, well, it is an announcement, but not an event. If you're interested in several pending bills for the Ohio General Assembly that might be a subject of discussion, there's one on the topic of, does the police department have to have probable cause to use drones over residential, commercial property? There's a question about tort liability for private use of drones. I know FC Cincinnati is using drones, aren't they? And the last one, I did mention collateral consequences of conviction, but virtual currency, Bitcoins. There's no regulation sort of in the state of Ohio for the use of Bitcoins. And I was wondering if that's something people want to talk about. That's it.
Pardon? You couldn't hear? She was talking about some bills that are being considered in Ohio. And so if you're interested in hearing about some of those, Lori's up here. Okay. Several weeks before Christmas, we had Dr. Lori Ann Weaver, who came and spoke to us about military spending. She offered us Prozac at the end of that message. Then a couple weeks later, we had Julie Heath from the Economic Policy Center at UC. And at the end of that, I could have used some Prozac too. Because, you know, some of these things are showing big red flags of danger moving forward. Today, we have another. We have Bernadine Zennie, who's representing the Extinction Rebellion. This is our planet. Let's think about what's happening in our planet, what our responsibilities are, and what we need to do. So without further ado, Bernadine.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Back in the back, back in the back, can you hear me? Wonderful. I see a lot of familiar faces and that's wonderful. For the people that are not here that know me, the people that are here that don't know me, I'm just going to give a little background because when I go a place and a person's commanding my attention, I'm like, who is this person and why should I listen to them? So I'll just give you a little bit of background about me. I've been a political activist since 1980. A lot of people, pardon me, it was the election of Trump that got them politically active. With me, it was the election of Ronald Reagan. And I did not, Vietnam, I was like off in Goo-Goo land, I don't know where I was. But I did know a lot about that. And then learned quickly about the whole Vietnam thing. So I was active all the way through the 80s with the sanctuary movement, with lots of things that keeping informed, and then having a life, working as a nurse, getting an M.Ed. from Xavier in counseling, teaching, all of that, healing and all of that. Well, then Occupy came along, Occupy Wall Street. It was exactly what I needed at the time. Occupy Wall Street was then an answer to a prayer. People think it went away, not so. Not so. We understand from WikiLeaks, those of us in Occupy, and I went to Zuccotti Park and lived at Zuccotti Park for 6 weeks. And then went to DC to do education and actions in DC. And we know from WikiLeaks that the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA all coordinated together to shut down all the camps with the mayors of all the cities, to shut down all the camps within a few weeks, and that's what happened. And so the Occupy groups have stayed very active. Occupy Oakland, Occupy Wall Street, of course, Occupy London, they're all very active. Occupy Sandy, does anybody know that Occupy Sandy was the one that with Hurricane Sandy did all of the relief and the Red Cross did Jack? Okay, so the Occupy people have signed on with Extinction Rebellion. Extinction Rebellion is its own thing. The Sunrise Movement in England came along a couple of years ago, and then part of them was the Extinction Rebellion arm. Now it's its own thing, the Extinction Rebellion group. And I know you're going to have a lot of questions. Hopefully I will answer all of your questions. Pardon me. Hopefully I will answer all of your questions by the talk. We had to get some different technology for something that I'm going to show you after the talk. And like in school, pass these around. This will help you understand what's going on. Some people that are at this group already have one of these. Thank you, thank you. You'll read along as I'm talking, and many questions will come up. Hopefully I'll answer them before the end of the talk. Extinction Rebellion is a offshoot of the group, Rising Up. I said Sunrise, that's in US. Rising Up in England. And they've been around for a long time, and they've been trying to figure out what to do about the climate and about what we're calling a climate emergency. We're calling it a climate catastrophe. We're calling it a climate crisis. And all the research supports that it is a climate emergency. And we don't have much time. I mean, I can quote you figures, but if you've read the climate report from the U.S., the UN weather people, and then there's another one that I didn't write down and it might come to me. Whole bunch of scientists, yeah. Whole bunch of scientists. It's all based.
1,600 pages by the government.
The government one, 1,600 pages. Okay, great, Peter, thanks. Peter's heard my talk twice, I think. But this is going to be a little more detailed. Okay, the research and all of our hearts and minds and spirits are telling us that individual action is fine. We recycle, I drive a Prius, all of these wonderful things that we do are not going to work until there's coordinated efforts by governments all over the world. And we know the Paris Agreement is just a bunch of baloney. We know that there's really not much that the government really is doing. So Extinction Rebellion has decided that the only way is nonviolent, absolute nonviolent direct action. And I signed up. I've known about this for quite a while, since November, the middle of November. And I signed up to be the local coordinator. And I've been coordinating with the U.S. offshoot is only a couple of weeks old. It started in the UK. And there are Extinction Rebellion groups all over the UK. But of course, one of the reasons that you don't hear about that is we know, as Gandhi and others conglomerated together have said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And we are going to win by nonviolent direct action. And this talks about, people can join the Extinction Rebellion and be a support person. Like when Mac McCracken, who remembers Mac McCracken? Yeah, I know. When Mac McCracken got arrested, we were out there by the Justice Center. We know he's in there. We know he's in there. And we actually confronted Sylvia C.V. Hinton at a party. Oh yeah, you convicted Mac McCracken. Oh boy, she was mad. She was the judge. At any rate, some people here are old enough to remember all that. So what we're doing is we're confronting leaders. We're doing nonviolent, disruptive, direct action. And people can be support people. People can be, any kind of a technology person to help spread the word. Any way that you can help. But I signed up to be the local coordinator, and the agreement that you see are the principles of the U.S. Extinction Rebellion. We no longer, as a coordinator, have to sign the agreement, but at least the principles of Extinction Rebellion, and you can say that you're part of the Extinction Rebellion. The principles are five statements. We demand the government tell the truth about the climate. We demand that they institute action, proven, workable action to bring the CO2 levels and the extinctions to a standstill by 2025. We don't have much time. By 2040, if nothing is done, it's likely we're not going to have a livable planet. It's very likely. 3 is a People's Congress that is going to oversee 1 and 2, telling the truth and instituting measures. Then the other 2 principles are absolute inclusion of everyone, no exclusion, and nonviolent. Now, I signed up to be the local coordinator, but they said they want to find somebody else because I have never led It's all my activity. I'm on YouTube. You can see things I've done in Occupy. Google my name and see crazy stuff I've done. But I have never led a nonviolent direct action. It's a very, very, very specific thing that has to happen. It has to be planned. You've got to know what to do and when to do it and how not, to cause harm. But to cause disruption, now of course what's going to happen when you disrupt their economic activity? People are going to get hurt, possibly. Especially in the US. Now, in the UK, not so much. The bobbies don't, they call for weapon backup when they need it. They don't carry weapons. And I'll tell you a really cute story. You can see on, if you go to Extinction Rebellion and see the videos of the live stream. I watched all of the live streaming. I was addicted. I could not believe that this was happening. It was beautiful. And some of the actions that they did were blocking all the bridges, except 2 in London. And they notified the police, they notified all the emergency, and they let the emergency people go through. But they did not let other people go through. And then the bobbies, this is one of the stories, one of the bobbies was like, come on, just leave the bridge. Come on, I want to go home. And they were blocking the bridge. And one of the guys said, I could murder a gin and tonic right now. And the bobby said, okay, let's go. So the bobby took him to the pub for a gin and tonic. And during one of the actions, one of the women was live streaming, and I was watching, and a passerby was really upset. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You're stopping. You know how people get. Just saying, okay. And she was saying, well, they were actually having a mock funeral for the earth, and they were going to bury this coffin in Parliament Square. That's another whole, I won't go into that, but this is just a funny part of the story. He kept, blah, 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 blah. And she said, please, we're having a funeral. Just kind of be quiet.
Can't hear you. Loud.
Very respectful. She said, please, just be quiet. We're having a funeral. Just, he just blah, blah, blah. And she turned to him and she said, I have cake if it will help. And so it's a very different kind of a thing in Europe. Well, we won't talk about France. Anyway, yeah. So this is what we're going to do. And there's no actions planned in Cincinnati right now. The two closest coordinations are Yellow Springs and Lexington. Okay, and I will join their action. Depending on what's going on in my life at the time, whether I'll get arrested, not sure, but I am willing. I finally am willing to get arrested. I got arrested for Jill Stein, trying to get her into the debates. But that wasn't as powerful as this will be. There will be actions in April all over the world. There is Extinction Rebellion groups all over the world, including in Africa, including in the Middle East, including in Eastern Europe. They may be small, and the police, of course, have differing responses. But we know what the responses of the police in the U.S. are. We know. One of the things that we can do, what we did do at Occupy Wall Street, was make common cause with the police. The blue shirts, they're the ones that are not officers. Whenever there was any harm at Occupy Wall Street, it was almost always the white shirts that harmed people. And when I was at Zuccotti Park, the police were all around, and we would go out and talk to them. And there was a whole van of policemen, and I was like yakking at them, talking to them about Michael Moore, and they were like, oh, rolling their eyes. And I actually gave them, I said, if you'll watch this, I brought this video of capitalism, a love story, and if you'll watch it, I'll give it to you. And they were like, I said, you just gotta keep it open. They go, okay. So I gave it to them, and they go, I said, what are you guys doing? Yeah, we're from Queens. We don't care about this. We're just working overtime. So if we can make common cause with the police and with the military. You know, because they're the ones that enforce the oligarchs' agenda. And sometimes they believe in it, and sometimes they don't even know, they don't care. But if we can make common cause at the level of the heart and the spirit, then what we will do will work. And all of the research says that nonviolent direct action works. There's a whole list of things that have to happen, which is why they want someone who's very experienced in order to have a coordinator here in this area. And if anybody wants to step up that has led a nonviolent direct action to be a coordinator with me, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the other places. And depending, like I said, depending on what's going on in my life, I will get arrested. But nonviolence is the absolute hallmark. So the 5 principles that I stated, if you are in agreement with them, you are part of Extinction Rebellion. You can go on to the websites, you can find out more. There's videos of people discussing the actions, people discussing what's going on. But that's basically the long and the short of Extinction Rebellion. Nonviolent, direct action, disrupt the economics of the fossil fuel and many others. And just as a little background, does anybody know what this is that I'm wearing? It's called hata, or ekatayef, 2 Arabic words for scarf. This is a Palestinian, yes, this is solidarity for Palestinians. I have a Palestinian brother-in-law. And in 1980, when he married my sister, we're like, oh, the Middle East. He goes, oh, let me tell you about the Middle East. He was raised in Nazareth, a Christian Arab town in Israel. He has an Israeli passport, but of course, third-class citizen. And the reason why he's in America is because they can't get educated over there. They closed down the Arab University, blah, blah, blah. So all of this is related. Many of the people that are in Extinction Rebellion are in actions for Palestinian rights, for animal rights, for many other things, because as we know, we're all one. Even if you're not spiritual, you know we are all connected in physically in the world. So many of the Extinction Rebellion people are about many other causes. And I think that's all I have to say. If anybody wants to join, I can give you the websites. And we are going to watch, hang on, sorry, Ellen. We're going to watch one song on YouTube, hopefully, if we can get the technology. Katie and I just decided the night before last.
Oh, you decided the night before.
I decided the night before last. She said, go with it, to attempt to do this. And so we tried to put the technology together. So be a little patient if we're not real quick with it, but I think we will be. There's a YouTube song, and I've got the lyrics, and I will give them to you. One of the college professors that is getting arrested and doing nonviolent action ended her blog post about why she's doing that with the song, one of the songs that I want to play for you. The other song I want to play for you, as we know, music can do things at the heart that other things can't.
Start my computer up
And the other song that I would like to play for you is the song that they sang at the funeral when they were going to bury the casket in Parliament Square. They sang this song called Emergency, and I just got to send this song to a lot of people. And I hope it will touch you as it has me. But I do have the words. Okay. That's all. Any questions? Go ahead, Ellen.
So, point 4. No, not on. Commit to avoid.
We can't hear you, just a
Turn it
minute.
on. No. We need microphone. Go ahead. Go ahead. Is mine working? Yours is working. Is it working? I can't hear it.
Turn it on.
How do you go up? I got it. They're shutting you down. Peter, you're right. What is this holacracy framework? Commit to avoid.
That's very important to talk about. Okay.
If I don't have the mic, can you still hear me? Yeah. Holacracy is actually, it's a method of groups getting together and working, and it's a mindset and a philosophy. And I do not know the exact name of the book. I do know that Extinction Rebellion is based on holacracy. Now, one of the principles of holacracy is that as long as you agree with the main principles, it's like 12 steps, the traditions. You're independent. As long as you agree with the 5, you can call yourself Extinction Rebellion. As long as you're in agreement with the 5 principles. Now that's from the UK. Because the US is its own thing, again, independence, the US has done much more. This is the US Extinction Rebellion requirements or principles or whatever you want to call it. And there's a huge group in DC of people that were also in Occupy. Does anybody recognize the name Margaret Flowers or Kevin Zeese?
Oh, yeah.
They are big leaders of Extinction Rebellion in DC. There's going to be a big action in the US like January 20th. They're asking everybody to do an action if you have the ability to do a nonviolent direct action. Such as disrupting anything, disrupting something and saying, you know, it's about Extinction Rebellion. Go ahead, Peter.
When you do a demonstration or a group action, do you hand out anything with information about the global crisis? Because there's such a massive attempt by idiots to say it's fake news and so forth. I mean, I personally believe in text being able occasionally to persuade people.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. I think our message, like Gandhi, my life is my message. I think with Extinction Rebellion, our action is our message. People do carry signs. They do carry, we don't have much time. Homemade signs, whatever, you know. We're all going to die in, 10 years. Whatever you want to write on the sign.
This works now.
And then, thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's each group is autonomous and can plan whatever they want. But in order to get support for this group, the U.S. wanted me to have another coordinator because the nonviolent, and I'm ready to do nonviolent direct action. I mean, I'm there and get arrested. And they said, we really want someone that knows a little more about it. That's the U.S. Peter. We're not really too much control freaks around here, are we? But in the UK, it's much looser. In Europe, it's much looser about the Extinction Rebellion. So, as I said, this is the U.S. Any other questions? Did that answer your question, Peter?
Why don't you see about looking at the laptop with your television? Focus on that part.
Okay.
On Saturday, February 2nd, the Poor People's Campaign, they've been doing nonviolent actions for the past year. They are having a forum from 1 to 3. I'll get Peter the information. I think I did send this to you in an email, Peter. They're going to have a presentation talking about water. Whether the water that we have coming out of the Ohio River is clean. Whether people can afford the water that we have out. And so therefore, they're doing something all around water. Water affects all of us. It's just one piece of this. We've talked about this. I mean, Ann has brought information to us before about everything that's going on in the Ohio River, all the dumping that's now being allowed in the Ohio River, all the, 3 and 4 times the water goes through your spigot in New York City. It's the same water. There's only so much water, and so the realization of what we're doing.
Fracking is a big part of the new threat.
Yes, fracking, and all this kind of stuff. Yes, Mike?
Would you repeat the time and date?
I know it's February 2nd from 1 until 3. I will give you the information. I want to say it's in the Clifton area. Mary Aguilera from the Poor People's Campaign is sponsoring it. Because I don't know if you remember when Oliver Kroner was here with Sustainability Cincinnati. He was talking about clean air. And Marlene and I have talked about this a lot. We find that the dirtiest air in Cincinnati is in the poorest neighborhoods. And of course, and where are they looking to bring this new gas line through? The poorest neighborhoods. And so therefore, it's always the poor that are getting beat up. But yet, if we stand by, we are just as guilty as those who are actively doing these things. If we stand by and do not speak up, we are just as guilty. So therefore, we've got to remember that we can't sit by anymore. There's too much going on now, and I see that what's happening in the past 2 years is really a destruction. We've worked so far forward. We're moving forward, and now I just see great steps going backwards. So they're trying to, yes, sir. Here you go.
Also, Saturday at 6:30 at St. John's Unitarian on Reeser, is that right? The 320 Reeser will be another monthly gathering of Changing Course, which is spelled CO2 course, Changing CO2 course. And we've been viewing a movie about the Earth in segments and also having speakers. And I think we're going to be looking at Cincinnati's plans to deal with climate change. And the sad thing is that we're moving from prevention to accommodation. It's not the right word, but and that's really unfortunate because there's still a lot we can do in terms of prevention. And the new term that I'm hearing is not climate change, but climate degradation. Which is perhaps a far more accurate term to be using. Also, in terms of the talk you just gave, Bernadine, CO2 isn't the biggest problem, oddly enough, but CO2 equivalent is the best way to talk about it because methane is 30 times more powerful climate change agent than CO2, and nitrous oxide is almost 300 times as much.
Yeah.
And the good thing about methane is if we can reduce the methane levels, methane cycles out of the air in 8.4 years out of the atmosphere. CO2 sticks around for about 100 years. So if we can cut the methane in half, and I've talked to this group once about the best way to do that.
Get cows to stop farting.
Yeah, Cowspiracy, the movie Cowspiracy? Yes.
If we can reduce the methane in half, we can reduce the greenhouse gases by a quarter, because it represents about half of what's happening.
So that's another one of the demands.
Yeah, so in 10 years' time, Ellen says to talk about meat. I did that presentation here, but again, okay, I'll do it again sometime. But anyway, that's something we can fix quickly, and it doesn't require a lot of technology. It just requires a change in eating habits. And also forcing the government to change the subsidies, because everything that motivates people in a capitalistic society is economic. So if it starts to cost you more to get certain foods, you'll change your eating habits right away.
Repeat the time and date, I think.
Yeah, I think that if I remember correctly, the doors open at 6 and the program starts at 6:30. St. John's Unitarian Universalist Church. This Saturday.
This Saturday.
Are we coming, Bernadine?
Getting there.
Lori?
I just had a quick question.
Fire away.
Given the talk about,
Wait a minute.
given the talk about Wall Street,
All the way up, it's on.
given the talk about, given the talk about Wall Street, is there any sense that there will be advocating as to the DeWine administration once he's sworn in, and was there as to our Governor Kasich on how the money's being invested, the governmental funds? Is it being invested in sustainable capitalistic endeavors? I mean, other states are sort of advertising, like New York, that they've increased their sustainable investment. But that's something that is ordinary advocacy that doesn't cross the nonviolent yet criminal line.
Do you know an answer to that, Bernadine?
About Wall Street?
About whether the DeWine administration has made any commitment towards sustainability or efforts of investing money into sustainable resources, etc.
What I can tell you is gobbledygook. All of it, all of it. No government entity that I know of, perhaps maybe Denmark, I don't know, Liechtenstein, I don't know, has made any. There are some small that have made, but America,
So what
the
about,
corporations, the oligarchs own too much.
but what about New York State? New York State is bragging on its website that it's done so.
Oh, they're going to brag about all kinds of things. They're going to say, oh, this is all wonderful, we're doing this, blah, 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 blah. Unless we do a World War II-like mobilization of decreasing fossil fuels, the agriculture, animal agriculture that Bill talked about, unless we do a World War-type mobilization, and if we do that, we have a chance. We have a chance of preventing the catastrophes of water, food, air, everything. We only have a chance. This is what the scientists all say. I'm going to try to pull this up.
Everybody chill out for a moment, talk among yourselves, chill out. As we were talking about this earlier, this kind of reminds me of
I'm not connected to you.
the
I'm
Vietnam
not
War
connected to the internet,
protesters.
Stan.
Huh?
I'm not connected to the internet.
And you may not pick it up from here.
Do they have, I don't know if they have internet in here.
They do.
Do you have the words that I can at least pass out to people?
Words to the song. Yeah, if we can get it, be patient with me. Just if we can get it, it will make a big difference. Okay, but if we can't, it says you're not connected.
Connect to them.
And I doubt it, as I told you before,
Yeah.
it's very unreliable here.
Okay,
So you have the words.
okay. What we can do is we can put the microphone up to.
Could we put the microphone up to somebody that has a really, really good smartphone with a good mic? We could get it on, we
Well, I don't
could
even
get it
know
on their
which one to put that
smartphone.
up.
We just have to somebody bring up YouTube. Stan, maybe I don't know what I'm doing here.
Well, you have to know the code for this place.
Yeah, because we were gonna try to do it ahead of time, but we didn't have the technology.
Let me see if I can.
Sorry.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay. I passed them all out. Are there any more of the Extinction Rebellion Coordinators Agreement lying around? I only printed 40. I really didn't know how many people would show up. I had to pay the library to print these. Well, if you've got a good...
It's not available to anybody.
So we can't...
It's not a,
You want to sign it?
I can't.
Put it in the Katie?
In other words, it's not available.
Okay. Does someone else have? Do you,
Yes, me too. Bernadine, yes, someone right here. He's gonna try. Mary Batiste.
Okay.
Stan, I think Stan's got it. This is his website. Hang on with that.
We can't do blue.
She's collecting. Coming around, or we should get
I don't know, I thought these were...
We can sign up for
Oh, okay.
We're getting there. We're going to do it on the smartphone, and I'm going to pass out the words.
This has been a chaotic.
It kind of goes with where my brain is right now.
Okay, this is one of the songs that radicalized me. There's only 40 copies, so if you can share. This is a song from the future called "Love in the Time of the Coral Reefs." Love in the Time of the Coral
Can we talk sometime more about the trip?
Yeah, did you get the information?
I looked it up online. Sounds like a fun thing. I was wondering that.
I don't know. Are you collecting them too, Bill?
Giving them out.
Okay, who's collecting them?
I'm not collecting them.
Oh, that's something different.
That's the song.
Oh,
That's the something different we've been talking about for the last. Sharing.
Okay, we have this song on his smartphone. She's on YouTube. She looks like she's about 18. She wrote this song 2 years ago.
Okay. What's it called?
Love in the Time of the Coral Reefs.
Love in the time of the coral reef.
Coral Reefer. No, that's right.
Hello?
Everybody have a copy? There's plenty left, actually.
Before we lost the permafrost when there were bears.
Yeah, that made me cry about the first 5 times I heard it. Now we have another one that made me cry. That, can you, okay, we need to get into SoundCloud.
Automatic.
Can you go to SoundCloud? And then we have to go to Extinction.
Okay, one more song. It's about a 3-minute song. And this also is, okay. Yeah, SoundCloud. Go to SoundCloud on the web. Yeah, I never heard of SoundCloud till I got this from the UK Extinction Rebellion people.
What's the name of the song?
It's called Emergency, is the name of the song. And it is on SoundCloud. And it's under the Extinction Rebellion stuff on SoundCloud. It's called Emergency. The name of the song is Emergency. And I've got words to that too I'll pass out. Again, there's only 40 copies. I'm sorry. Thank you, Bill. Bill, will you be able to get to SoundCloud on his device? Or somebody else?
Pop or Tank?
No, but you did that I had.
It's new music, yeah.
Keeping Bill busy today, aren't we?
So if anybody knows about SoundCloud, if we don't make this work, it's SoundCloud music playing under the Extinction Rebellion stuff on
Use my
SoundCloud.
remote control TV.
I'm not available.
You guys can share? If not, I'll, there's the song.
I wrote it, I don't need to see it.
You wrote it?
Yeah.
Do that.
You want to follow along?
You have to freeze with your phone. Nice.
I don't think so.
Somebody a day.
Documenting all the hazardous waste.
You know how to tell Trump's lying?
His mouth is open.
See if his lips are
At first it was every now and then, like,
A couple of days.
well, yeah, I mean, it was like, but, the very first day, the crowds and
Well, Mary, shame on you, because your son would have straightened him out. You failed. So it's all your fault.
I've been trying to tell telepathy, since he doesn't have a mind.
Trying is not.
If I were like 20 years old, this would have been done, we would have been done with this 15 minutes ago. If I had my grandson here.
Anybody still need lyrics? Or are you feeling very full enough already?
I don't think we can turn it around here.
No, it's not peasant, it's realistic.
Okay, it's already started.
And 20 more.
Every room should be white.
This is an emergency. The waters are coming. And if we do not rise up, then we will soon drown. And I'm sorry. And now we're getting out of town. But this is an emergency. There'll be no food for eating. And if we do not rise now, then this life will be for fighting. And I'm sorry, my children, I didn't want to frighten you. And this is no ghost story. This is an emergency. All these have failed us. And if they do not rise up, then we will soon be drowning. And so we have to rise up now and
So it's getting to the end of our meeting time. I just want to make sure we don't have any schedules out. But Mel Cohen from the University of Miami University is going to be speaking on Electoral College next week. The week after that, Rob Weidenfeld and the Better Angels are going to be here. And I want you to think between now and then about being really good people here, because it's going to bring some Tea Party folks along, and we have said for a long time, we need to know how to talk to them. So this is what the Better Angels is all about, us collaborating, finding out how to work. Because I think that Deb Schreck is one of the ones that said this a long time ago, if we have conversations, we're going to find there are more things that we agree on than what we disagree on. And so I think we have to learn how to talk to each other. And then the last one in January is Pro Kids. So that's our agenda for the rest of January, and the scheduling committee is working on February, almost solidified, and we'll let you know when that comes up. Thank you very much for being here today. Look forward to seeing you next week. Lori, yes?
Has nothing to do with politics, maybe it does.
Well, not everything about politics.
Last tourism announcement that I forgot to mention, Person 101. If you're a member of AAA, don't throw away the January, February issue. I almost did. It has a cover of a really pretty Mardi Gras mask, but I went to Mardi Gras once years ago as a student, and I'm not doing it ever again. But inside, the issue covers our southern Ohio border, from the Freedom Center to Broward County. It includes the Heritage Risto House, it includes the Parker House and the Rankin House along the Underground Railroad. Very great language, and a quote from Carl Westmoreland, and a photograph. They don't have a photograph of the Stowe House, but all the others, and it's a great magazine, so we might have a great tourist season coming up. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for...
Thank you all very much, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, Katie.
Have a good one.
Thank you.